Welcome to the Toast Podcast, where we serve up conversations with the best in the restaurant business. I'm Armando LeDuc, and in each episode, we'll chat with restaurant owners from across the country, diving into the latest trends, challenges, and solutions shaping the industry. Whether you're a seasoned restaurateur or just starting out, there's something here for everyone. So grab a seat and get ready to be inspired. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Pike Howard in the house.
Hello, glad to be here.
You like that?
Yeah, I like that. I love it.
That's awesome, man. So Pike over here owns one of my favorite restaurants in New Orleans, which is Felipe's. If you guys have not been to Felipe's in NOLA, they've got several locations. But amazing Mexican joint. The food is incredible.
Thank you.
How you guys have run this place is just super high quality. And so I wanted to have you on the podcast to really talk about one of the things we were talking about offline was the buy-in of your employees, and how are you getting that buy-in? Because in a environment these days of just people just like, I'm not really.
Yeah, I'm not into it.
I'm not into it. But like you're getting, you're getting huge buy-in.
We are getting buy-in, and I'd say it's atypical in this industry as well. And I think that a few years ago, we kind of, maybe had an epiphany. I don't know what you want to call it, but we were like, okay, we really need to, the biggest cost to us as a business is turnover, right? And it's the restaurant industry. So to a certain extent, you accept some level of turnover that's higher than normal, higher than average in most businesses. But I think just accepting that was not good enough for us. So we said, what can we actually do about it? And at the sort of the hourly based team member level, we decided to start investing in technology and also just making it a point to open a dialogue with every team member. So, if you were a dishwasher or a kitchen lead, it didn't matter, or even a manager. You were going to be contacted by us, and we were going to open the floor for conversation about different things. So, for example, did you know we have a 401k? Atypical in the industry, right? You're eligible for it now. Do you want to participate? A lot of people don't even know what a 401k is, believe it or not. So we started kind of opening the dialogue for that, and then we committed to a much more transparent sort of structure across the board on how you increase your earnings. So we made like basically a chart. Like if you, the more you earn, the more you learn, the more you earn, right? Pretty simple, basic at its most basic level, but then putting it to a chart being like, if you do this position and this position, you can expect this. And so now there's a path. We've now created the path. We've now created the dialogue. So there's really no excuse for an individual to have to sort of, flounder in the unknown or the gray about what it is they're doing, where they fit in, how they earn more. It also cuts down dramatically on the conversations that happen with direct supervisors, because it's very transparent and clear of how you can grow and do more. So you cut out a lot of noise. And then with that sort of cutting down of the noise, then all of a sudden people feel sort of empowered to dictate their own future, which I think for a lot of individuals within the restaurant industry specifically, that might be the first time in their life where someone's given them that responsibility. So that might be, a lot of these people are kind of trying to figure out where they fit in life and kind of what's next and what they're doing. And we understand people aren't going to be rolling burritos for their entire life. But if they are wanting or yearning for more, we can sort of be the rock stability and transparency of how they can sort of feel accomplished.
That's amazing. And because you guys are growing, there's always room for growth in the company in terms of growing into leadership positions.
That's right. Rising tide kind of floats all ships in a way. It's interesting you talk about growth, just to back up slightly. We've run sort of the full trip around the moon in terms of growth. I think we thought we could do things differently, and we realized that was very difficult and expensive. So for example, we have 2 locations in Southwest Florida. We had 3. One of them got destroyed by Hurricane Ian, unfortunately, and we decided just to kind of stick with the 2 that we had. But that market's taken 7 years to mature, sort of. And I think what we failed to realize was, and a lot of people might fail to realize this in growth is just like the value and expectation of a brand when you have it established, right? So we are not, you know, a McDonald's like national brand or whatever, where you can be going 70 miles an hour down the highway. You see the sign for McDonald's. You're like, I know exactly what that is. Like there's an expectation. I'm going to go through the drive-through. I'm going to get my whatever it's going to be, and off we go. We don't have that, right? Or we don't on like a broader scale. So what we realized was like we do have an expectation here in this market, right? So building the location on Metairie Road that we just did was sort of what, you know, we probably should have done 10 years ago in terms of just people knew that if we put one there, people know, like, I know Felipe's. I know what that means. I know what to expect. And all of a sudden, like, you've got, you know, the march down the road, plant a flag, 20 minutes farther, plant a flag. That sort of old idiom I don't think is broken. Obviously, there's the additional infrastructure that goes along with all that. Like you've got all these people in the immediate proximity who can help and sort of provide the support network for your operations. We kind of got away from that for a little bit, and we've since closed underperforming locations and sort of have gotten back to like the core of, okay, here's the sort of tenets we have about growth now. We kind of hit the reset button and said, we're going to, you know, make 5 or 6 things that we have to do in order to add another location.
So growth for not just growth for growth's sake.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs are like, we're just going to keep growing.
That's a trap.
Yeah.
I think. And we kind of got into that a little bit. Because it's fun, it's exciting. Everyone feels like they're pumped and like you know, the company must be doing well because we're adding locations. That's not always true.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's expensive, costs a lot of money, and you can actually get into this situation where you're actually pulling cash out of the business to grow, and it's actually at the detriment of kind of everybody in a way, right? Because there's not as much maybe to go around at the end of the year or whatever. So, right now, we're very happy with our existing operations, and we've actually termed 2024 as the year of less distractions, right? So, I mean, the past few years in the restaurant industry and in every industry almost has been like a lot of volatility and trying to figure out kind of where we are and where we're going. And so we're just going to operate what we got the best that we can. We're going to tighten down. We're going to build cash, and let's just reevaluate at the end of the year, and let's be content with that, right? And, you know, I think that messaging sort of all the way up and down the chain has provided actually some stability, which I think people are kind of looking for, generally speaking, right now. They're looking for a little bit of like, we have a plan. You know?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think, so what would you tell some, you know, restaurateurs that are like, not restaurateurs, but people that are starting restaurants and they're like, oh, you know,
well,
I'm gung-ho about it.
Yeah, it's kind of a low barrier to entry business if you kind of think about it. In some ways, it's not like techie, right? Too much. There's not like this, you know, grandiose idea that you have to sort of come up with in order to enter it. But I think people like have this notion that like, you know, a restaurant is like this gold mine or whatever, and it's actually, if you compare it to most industries, it's actually a low margin business, right? You know, if you're chipping away at 8 to 15% when it's all said and done, you're doing well. And that's, you know,
is that because there's why are the margins so low?
It's because you have so many human interactions into the system, one, with lots of people, and then also you're dealing with a product that has a short shelf life, right? So you're dealing with a raw chicken. Like if you don't cook that chicken within a day or so, you got to throw it away. And so like that's just money out the door, right? So there's a lot of variables, both human influenced as well as just cost inputs that are moving. And so it's like it's like an orchestra almost in terms of just trying to nail down like what's exactly the right amount that I need in order to meet the demand, Am I not throwing away product? Am I not wasting product? Is the efficiency of the people that are in here, are they generating sales? So, I mean, there's all kinds of just things that have to be daily managed in order for that, just even the day, to be profitable.
How did you were never, were you ever the chef? Like, were you ever
was
the
never the chef,
Okay.
no. So my like, first off, I never even thought I'd be in this industry. Like, if you had told me when I was a kid, oh, you're going to be running restaurants, I would have laughed at you. Like, I would have been like, no, I don't even care.
What'd you want to do?
I mean, my passion, which it still is today, is flying. That is something that I still do, and I wanted to be a pilot. And at some juncture along the way, I don't know, I kind of derailed from that, got married to my lovely now wife and have 3 kids, and her family, her father-in-law came up to me and was like, hey, we kind of need some help with this business. And, you know, at this point you're family, and you're like, all right, I can do that. But my approach to it was always very numbers driven and operationally driven. And it was like, you know, we need to hit this, and this in order for it to make it work. This guy's got to stand here. That guy's got to be there. We need one guy there. The way the bar has to be laid out is, you know, this person needs to be able to move from here to here. I guess I always kind of approached it. It wasn't like about like how the carnitas gets made, which, you know, is important, of course, right? But it's more like, how are all these variables interacting specifically so that this model that we have is functioning appropriately. And I think, like, at the end of the day, the restaurant industry, I would tell everybody, is like a big math problem.
Which is why it's so important. Have you ever read the book Rocket Fuel?
No.
So Gino Wickman created a company called EOS, and it's all about, you know, having the visionary and the integrator, having that relationship.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like you're the integrator of the vision, which is so important, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they get into the trap of feeling like they have to do everything in the company. And to your point, it's like, I think it's more important to be thinking about, not that making the carnitas is not an important task, but overall there needs to be that higher level vision for the company, so that we can grow and we're not just concerned with the minuscule tasks of, all of these many things. Yeah,
I would say the first thing that I did when I did join, though, was I kind of immersed myself in everything. There wasn't really a stone that I didn't want to turn over. And I spent the first few years in the business really just doing that, like dissecting and kind of trying to really wrap my head around, like, what makes this thing work. And in that process, I was also sort of able to uncover what I believe to be, and I think what we believe as a business, to be sort of like our core tenets about what makes it successful. And that's at, like, the, you know, like my shirt says small batch made from scratch. So, like, there was a ton of pressure over the last few years with the way costs were going to capitulate, sort of to reduce the time with which it takes to make good product or bag things or commissary things. And we were like, nope, not going to happen. Like, don't even, you know, we got approached by a bunch of, can we batch this? No, we can't, because that's not us. So staying true over time, even in the face of, you know, financial pressure, to what it is, I think, that are kind of your core values, was a really important task. And I was able to do that, I think, or able to get a better understanding of that by kind of turning over every stone. And then my role sort of pivoted from there to the guy providing sort of the high level direction. And I like to think of us as like this, you know, this big freighter ship, very difficult to turn, takes a lot of planning and time. If you're going to make a turn, you got to think about it a lot, but, you know, you want to stay on that true north course. And so my goal every day is to kind of keep us on that true north course, so that no one in the business or who works for us is sort of wondering or sort of floundering about of, like, what is this thing that I work for? What's important to them? What do they do? Where do I fit in? So, like, every team member should know, like, what's my role? Where do I fit in? What's important at this company? And where am I going?
Was this a lot of trial and error on your part, or have you had mentors? Have you gone to, you remember masterminds?
So we send pretty much everybody at a leadership level to Dale Carnegie, which is kind of like an old school sort of like really throwback
No, it's great.
type deal, but that kind of provides a good core, I think, for how to interact with everybody. And then, you know, I spend a lot of time thinking about this stuff. It's important to me, and I spend a lot of time sort of gyrating in my own head and bouncing ideas off other team members, and you know my father-in-law and my family also. You know, we set up the company kind of interestingly enough, which was a really difficult task because you've got this family business. Everyone cares about it and wants to see it do well. But at the end of the day, one person has to be kind of responsible for its direction. And so we had to get to a point where I said, you know, I would like to run this. And I want you all to be like my sanity check, soundboard. And we were able to successfully do that and sort of keep them out of the fray day to day, sort of head above water, and allow me to sort of come to them and say, here's what our performance is, here's what we're doing, here's what we're thinking. Tell me my blind spots. And that's been really healthy too. So a lot of, I guess, trial and error in a way. Yeah. I mean,
sure. I mean, I think that's where true knowledge and experience comes from, right? It's bumping into something, seeing something fail and going, oh, okay, well, we learned from that. Let's not do that again. Right. Maybe to your point where you guys were like growing super fast and you guys were like, hey, let's recalibrate real quick and see what we've learned. Yeah.
And that the recalibration has been healthy. And I think everyone needs to think about doing that. The other thing that was a lift, I guess, in a lot of ways was I wanted to look at our team that sort of, you could call it like the corporate team. We call it the home office team because we're kind of like a little engine that could. And, I wanted these individuals to look at themselves, you know, they're on salary and whatever, but they are the spokes of support for operations, right? So we specifically kind of steered away from corporate because I didn't want these individuals looking at themselves of like, well, I'm here and you're down there at the operations level. No, like this is an operations business. This is an operating company that has operations, and there's many more operators than there is us, right? So if you think about a bicycle wheel, we're kind of the spokes. And so we've got our little buckets, and we are supporting these guys in their ability to execute operationally. And the thing about the restaurant industry is like it can eat you alive, right? So we're talking about 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's kind of on. It's this machine that's on all the time. Every day you're reporting sales, and you're kind of got a scorecard. And what I wanted these individuals to do was I wanted them to be responsible for their work-life balance within the structure and confines of realizing that they support restaurant operations. So I said, I don't care if you need to go run an errand in the middle of the week or whatever, or you need to go somewhere or do something, or your kid's sick, or like what I need is for you to be able to support operations at times that are atypical of kind of a normal work schedule. And that was a big cultural shift a little bit. It wasn't like, you know, I get here at 9, I leave at 5. I'm an office person. Well, you're kind of an office person, but you have to realize that you're supporting this subset. And
right.
So we've been able to do that, and that took a while, but I think it was crucial because, like, you know, if you've ever been like the manager in a restaurant with a line out the door and like the point of sale broke or something like that, and it's like you're staring at all these people and like the pressure's building and like you need the lifeline. And like, you know, so let me call like my IT guy and see if he can figure this out. And it's like, in that moment, I need that IT guy to sort of step up and be the hero. And now it creates this like pretty big connection between the operators in this group as sort of like the ability to problem solve quickly and in the moment. And that IT guy might be at dinner with his family at 8 o'clock on a Friday night, and that sucks. And I hate that for him. I hate that for me. But usually we can fix things in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like an easy deal. And it's like, okay, I did that. Now when my kid wants to go to the park on a Monday morning, I'm going to go do that with him. Right. So that's a
give and take.
Yeah.
So that's that's the culture that you've created. Do you get buy-in when you approach somebody with this concept of like, atypical hours, and I want you guys to be like I need buy-in from you. How are you developing that? Is it compensation? Is it bonus? Is it?
So at Felipe's, we've always tried to say that we want to try to pay more because we expect more, right? So we want to try to be above average on wages, and I think we're pretty clear. A lot of the team actually in the home office has been with us for a long time. And this cultural shift probably has taken 5 years sort of to matriculate or materialize. And along the way, I think it was more about like, it was less about compensation and sort of the money. And it was more about like, I'm giving you flexibility, right? And some people hate that and some people relish in that. And so, you have to work through that. And we've definitely worked through a few people that like that wasn't their jam.
Right. Do you guys have like assessments that you put people through?
Not so much like assessments. Again, what we like to do is create a very open and honest dialogue. So I like to have just like check-ins where it's like, hey, like what's going on? How do you feel about things? What's bugging you? Who's bugging you? Like this is your opportunity to just talk. And it's not like an assessment. It's not about compensation or whatever. It's more just like, I want to know what's going on in your head. And a lot, and a lot of times these conversations will even take personal turns. Like what's going on in your life that's impacting you. And I think when you're able to have that kind of open dialogue conversation with team members, it kind of cuts out that like sort of I'm your direct supervisor and like we're human beings, we're all trying to figure this out. Like I need to know what you need. And when I know what you need, I then can take that back and be able to assess, can we do that or can we not? Can I solve your problem or can I not solve your problem? I'm not asking to make all your problems my problems. I'm just trying to understand what it is you're dealing with. And because I like to view the company as like sort of this consistent sort of, if the room's spinning, we're the thing that's like rock solid, right? So if we're the thing that you can grab onto it and let's like work through, because even if I go away, you go away, like this thing's still going to be here, right? So like it's the thing in the room that's not spinning. And
that's cool.
And so can we like you leverage that stability to help you find stability? I know that sounds kind of weird, but
no, it makes sense. And you said this year's the year of non-distraction, right? What does that mean?
Yeah, so it means like we're not growing, we're not adding a location this year, which can be a major distraction.
Sure.
From the standpoint of partners, tech stack, we're very like. What's the word? Like we take a lot of time to figure out who we want to partner with, and then we're very loyal, right? So it's like Uber Eats. A few years back, we decided that like we liked that platform the best. We got the sort of the most interaction and responsiveness out of them. We thought they had kind of the best market share locally, and we were like, we're partnering with you exclusively, right? Before that, we had like all these integrators, and you had Uber Eats, DoorDash, everybody, and we were like, we also made a conscientious, like we are reducing the tech stack because it's like getting completely out of hand.
Bro, that tech stack is out of fucking control.
Yeah, right. So we decided like we're going to commit to these, these companies, and Cisco's our prime vendor, another one that we just re-signed with. And so like you kind of make these like longer term commitments to these partners so that you're not like constantly evaluating new partners, and you kind of cut down on that. Like we're good.
Yeah.
Like we have who we want to be with. There may be a better deal out there, but like we're not interested in that. Like we've vetted and we've been with these individuals. We know what to expect. And so when you like have all that in your head, and throughout the company, it's like there's not as much like guesswork going on or I guess busy analysis. You're like, we're set.
Why is Cisco so good?
So it's interesting. We had another prime vendor, PFG, great company, local. During we had Hurricane Ida, and their facility down in where is it? It's like near Homa, maybe. Got really messed up, and like we at that point decided to make a switch, and Cisco's been really good because they've been able to basically, because they're big, and we're not like a huge player in the Cisco world, but we do well locally. They've been able to kind of stock what we need. So like out of product doesn't happen a lot. And then they've got like some really fantastic people that work for them that are like, again, they realize, and this has been big for me, is like working with people who realize the industry that they're in. Like a lot of people like want to, they're like, you could be like, I'm a Cisco rep, so I'm like, you know, but they realize they're supporting restaurant operations. Again, like back to restaurant operations. Restaurant operations are like happening in the moment a lot, and like things need to be solved quickly. Yeah. And so finding partners that realize that that's the industry they're supporting, I think is something we've tried to kind of latch onto.
And talk to me about that in terms of like having vendors that know what's happening and how easy that makes life for a restaurant owner.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about expectations, I think, right? So once you establish the right set of expectations on both sides of the relationship, then you kind of can work through problems so much faster. Like if me and you don't know each other and I've got a problem and I come to you, I don't know how you're going to react to my problem. You might say, screw off. I don't know, whatever. Like or I'm on vacation. I'll be back to you when I get back, you know? But you start dealing with people a lot and you realize like where they fit into your problem solving tree, right? And then so like, you know who to call when. And that's a big deal. I mean, in restaurant operations, like you like provide this loyalty to these individuals and these companies, and you find people you like and you can work with well, and then you stick with it, right? Like I am not about like the deal, right? Like it's not like, oh, I can give you towels cheaper. Okay, great. But like if I call you on Saturday at 10 a.m., you're going to pick up the phone? That's what I care about. Like it's that where we look out for each other.
Yeah.
Where you know that like I'm not going anywhere with you and you're going to be there for me. And cutting out that like unknown, like is the guy going to pick up? Like, you know, especially if you're in the restaurant and operating and like you got a problem, like that just alleviates such a level of stress that's like unnecessary.
Yeah.
So we've tried to find those who we want to do that with and stick with it. And that's, you know, full circle, that's less distractions.
Yeah. So what's the one thing that, and I mean, there's probably many, but what's the one thing that you've done in the last year that has been the biggest impact in your company?
Yeah, I think making like a full-fledged commitment to realizing that technology in the restaurant industry is here to stay. So people's habits have definitely changed as in terms of how they interact. And we talked a little bit about this when we did the toast deal, but it's like they are getting product. They, as in consumers, are like finding the way that they want to get product, and their optionality is much more broad than it used to be. You know, I've got a phone in my pocket that allows me to dial up just about anything, anywhere, and get it that way. Online takeout. So we, about 2 years ago, were like, we saw this trend sort of emerging, and obviously with COVID, it was kind of gaslighting the whole thing, and we were like, we need to make sure that on a go-forward basis, technology and optionality are integrated into our restaurants. They are a part of the fabric and design of all the restaurants. And I think that's been good because, you know, it's so interesting to think about like 10 years ago, you walk into a Felipe's and the only way to get the product was like to walk up to the line and like interact with someone and like that was the thing. And, you know, that could have been like a great a great interaction, or it could have been like the no soup for you thing, like on Jerry Seinfeld, right? So like, you know, you could have made or broken that guest in that moment with whether or not they were going to come back. And now you've got review platforms and you've got ways to engage with people. And so like making a commitment to technology has allowed us to also increase like the ability to reach out and touch the guests that come and see us. Like if you order online, well, I've now got your email and your phone number, right? What do I do with that? Like nothing? No, I get it. I'm going to do something with that.
Yeah.
If I see that you are, you know, you get this same thing especially if you had like a bad experience, now it allows me to reach out and touch you, which is awesome. Like you now have the ability to get a much better beat on when, you know, the success and failures in the moment of your restaurant, and you can quickly jump on like a resolution. And then you're capturing all this data, and you can, you know, reach out and ping people and be like, hey, Armando, I realize, you know, every Wednesday you get a super burrito you missed last week. Like, here's 10% off. I mean, that's cool, crazy stuff, right? But it's doable now because I have your information. And so another big thing we've really committed to, you know, is the first layer was getting the technology in place, and then the second is how do we use it, like to grow sales. Obviously, we're giving people optionality, and that's great, and that's like kind of the bare minimum, right? You're just keeping pace if you're doing that. Now the next layer of the onion is sort of like, now how do I use this information in order to get people coming back or get people doing things or make touches or make a connection with the guest. And one thing we've really kind of been harping on this year is like more high touch, more aggressive discounts. So like with the inflationary environment, what we've seen is that we've seen like a much larger swath of guests reacting to offers, much more so than in the past. And I think that there's a whole new group of individuals, maybe even yourself, who's like, where'd all my money go? Like, it's really hard to save right now, like really hard. And we realize that, like, and I think everybody's going through that in different ways. And so we're like, well, if we ping you and like, here's 30% off, you're like, yeah, I might not have gave a shit about that like at one point, but I care right now. And so we're trying to capitalize on that. And it's not just like capitalize in like the capitalistic sense, like,
sure,
you know, we're going to make money. It's like, we want you to come and we want you to take advantage of this opportunity that we're offering. Like if that's the impetus for you, is that's what it takes, then like, let's do it.
Yeah.
So
fantastic, man. Yeah. Pike, I appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Let people know where they can find you.
Yeah. We are in New Orleans in 4 locations. So we're basically in Orleans Parish. We're kind of hitting all the spots, right? So Mid-City, Uptown, French Quarter, just opened in Jefferson Parish on Metairie Road. Our locations in Florida are in Southwest Florida and Naples, the Naples area. So
nice. I love that area. Yeah, I just got back from Marco Island.
Yeah, that's right. Cool. South. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, we've 17 years in, man. So it's, I've been doing it for like 10. And you know, it's exciting. It's one of those industries that I think, is constantly like fluid, and like any other industry in some ways not. I mean, you like really have to kind of be thinking like, how do I keep, you know, I always ask the question like, how do I keep Felipe's cool and like top of mind? And like, you know, you kind of like always want to try to be thinking like, and that's why we redesigned a lot of the restaurants, or like redid a lot of them. We're like, we want to go with this like more modern Mexican feel. And that was like a big sort of, you know, like high level initiative. And that was all about like, we got to stay in the mix.
Yeah.
You know,
you guys do it,
fighting for it
really, really, really well.
Thanks.
So, and the food is amazing. The environment's awesome. The quality's really good. So yeah, I highly recommend going to a Felipe's, Pike Howard.
Thank you.
I appreciate you, man. And we'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks for tuning in to the Toast Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Stay connected with us for more insights and stories from the restaurant world. And remember, with Toast, you can focus on what you do best, serving great food and growing your business. Until next time, keep cooking.